Can't hear you. You're getting hot?
Just hot. You know how it goes.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Indeed. Yeah. What I love about Pam and what I love about this journey that we've been on is that Pam and I are literally the same age, you know, and so lots of the things that Pam speaks about her life and her childhood, I relate, and vice versa. So we'd have been at school in the same year, isn't it, Pam? And lots of things like, Pam, I almost put my leather dress on this evening, and then I said, no, I won't. I'll wear something else. So we often, what I also see Pam as, I mean, look at her glasses. So between us, we share like fashion tips, you know. I'll see her wearing the dress, I'll love it. Where did you get it from? She'll do the same to me. I'll be on a serious Zoom talking about, oh, my story, Geraldine's Pearl. Pam's messaging me, Marcia, that dress, you know, it's just wonderful. So I met Pam, it's been like, it'll be 5 years now. 5 years since we met. We met in 2016. Pam, do you want to give an introduction to yourself before we actually go into the interview?
Yeah, no problem at all. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, excellent. Good evening, everyone. Nice to see Miss Norma from Portugal as well. Yes, so it's good to see you. Yeah, as Marcia said, my name is Pamela Haynes, author of Loving the Brothers. I met Marcia 5 years ago at an event. Marcia was one of the rising stars and was handing over the baton to another winner. And I happened to be on Marcia's table. In fact, everybody else was picking up an award that day except for me. And I was just in awe of everybody that was at the table. But in particular, this woman, Marcia, who had a stack of her books next to her called Geraldine's Pearl. And I say what I always say when I meet an author, one day I'm going to write my own book. And Marcia said that she had moved into publishing. So we swapped details. And when I was ready, I contacted Marcia, and she kept me to quite a strict timetable until my book was completed. We were both turning 50 that year, and my book was published 5 weeks before my 50th birthday. I still remember that day when the poor UPS man turned up with 2 huge boxes of books.
Yes.
And I was just so excited to receive my book. It came as a surprise. Yes. It came earlier than scheduled.
Yeah,
because
and
Marcia
I was in
just
Jamaica celebrating my 50th when your book actually came out.
Right. That's right. So I was pleasantly surprised to see my book. It's here, still here. Some copies. And I suppose the rest, as they say, is history, really. I was really delighted. My original why was to just to celebrate turning 50 and achieving something. So that was my main why. Is that okay?
That's absolutely wonderful, Pam. Well, it feels strange actually interviewing you with an audience, because on occasion over the years we've had a chance to have Zooms together. Recently we had a virtual Prosecco, didn't we, meeting?
We did, yeah.
Well, get together, which we could have carried on all night. I think it was about like 11:30, nearly to midnight, and then I was tired. We were both tired then, so we had to stop talking. Okay, Pam. Yeah. So and everyone else in the audience, I want to now, what I admire with you is being a fiction writer. And you know, over the years, it's looking at how does a fiction writer create the characters, the plot, create the intrigue, the dialogue, you know, how does that happen? So firstly, I want to explore how you created the main three characters. So Patty, Charmaine, and Rose. And for everyone listening, it has to be in that order. Patty, Charmaine, Rose. And when you read the book, the chapters are in that order: Patty, Charmaine, Rose. So tell us how you created those three women and why.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, my career was mainly in the probation service in a variety of different roles. And my career in the overall criminal justice system is about 30 years long. And I found that there were books written about the fire service, the police service, lawyers, some social services, you know, all those type of criminal justice sectors, but there were no stories about probation officers. And even when they show probation officers, you know, in the field, they tend to be American probation officers, and it's more about the person just reporting and just checking in. And I wanted stories where probation was the center of the plot in terms of what we do. And what better place to start with a senior probation officer like myself, a role that I know all about. And that's why one of my first protagonists, Patty, is a probation officer. When it comes to character formation, there was a pro forma that you developed, Marcia. I don't know if you remember.
Yes, yes.
That you
I still use it now.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yep. And when I am mentoring aspiring authors, I have developed something similar. Wonderful. Where basically you are penning out what that person is like. So you're doing their physical attributes, but also their moral attributes, their qualifications, how tall they are, what their complexion is, how they wear their hair, you know, how they walk, how they talk, you know, all of those types of things. So Patty, I penned her to be someone about 45 years old, a Black woman with natural hair, always in high heels, very smartly turned out, qualified to a master's level, studying for her PhD. Now, not all of these attributes are then put in a book, but you're giving that person a backstory to what their character is like. So Patty is adopted and doesn't really know anything about her biological parents, but these are all things that you can then explore in other books later down the line as well. So for me, I was able to take that character, very similar in age to myself. A lot of people say, okay, did you meet your husband on the underground? No, I didn't. This is fiction, but I'm pulling together things from somebody who would be about my age. When it came to my second character, which is Charmaine, Charmaine is 25 years old, a young mum of twins. And again, I did this whole exercise of what makes Charmaine Charmaine. Her age, her complexion, the way she wears her hair, you know, historical facts like her father passing away when she was 14 years old. These are significant triggers. A timeline of what would have influenced Charmaine to make her who she is today. And my last character, Rose. Rose is 35 years old. She has 5 children. She's in the church. Her husband is the minister. And there is something unique about pastors' wives who are viewed in a particular way as being perfect, but you know, her character is flawed and her relationship is also flawed. So overall, I wanted to demonstrate that women can experience domestic abuse at any age, at any time, whether they're married or not, whether they're successful or not. But the most important thing is that women can come through this experience and come out the other side as well. So that's how I got to pen the first 3 protagonists. And I found that that exercise that you gave me, Marcia, essential in terms of developing what my characters were going to be like, and you know, how would they vote, you know, if they were to vote, how would they vote?
Yes.
What model would they use to raise their children? Do they have disposable income? Are they employed? All of those things help me put those characters together, and I still use that now.
Right. So that is vitally important, isn't it? So do you keep that? So where do you keep that information? Do you have it just when you're writing? Is it just stored on the computer, or do you have it written out so you can refer to it?
Absolutely. And as and when new information comes along, then you can add something to it. You know, so, you know, if one of my characters grew up in the late 60s, what would have then influenced her when she was a young adult? You know, one character grew up in, yes.
Of those three women, which one do you think, if any, would take the vaccine, the COVID vaccine?
I think Rose would take the vaccine. I think Patty would want to wait and see what more information came out before so she could make an informed decision. And I think Charmaine really couldn't care less whether you took it or not. She'd be more concerned if her mum took it, about whether, because her mum would be approaching a particular age group, at-risk age group. So yeah, that's a really, after the three of them, I think that would be their decisions. One would take it, one would wait to see, and the other one's not really, that's not on her agenda really.
No,
vaccines is not on her agenda.
Charmaine has other things going on. Yeah. So Pam,
that's right.
Let's just talk about Charmaine, because I know that a lot of readers, so our audience here, just either show of hands, yeah, how many of you have actually read Loving the Brothers? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us. Okay, 6 of us. Okay, so my question, Charmaine, so for those of you who've read Loving the Brothers, you pick up on this really, I don't know, vibrant, wild, almost wild character, Charmaine, but quite parts of her character, it's a bit sad because she has problems. She had problems with her weight, and she was living in this difficult marriage. Pam, and she loved going out to dance and loads of things. She smoked weed and whatever. So Pam, was Charmaine based on your experience of being that age?
Not the weed, and not the dance hall scene.
Okay.
So if you swap the dance hall scene for maybe soca, instead. So I'm a bit of a fan. I think I mentioned in the book that she goes to the Rex, you know, to hear all of this dance hall. But the Rex at the time was the biggest venue that held those kind of concerts in the East End. So, you know, that was our Brixton Academy. You know, that was our O2 back then. So most of the big dances and events would be held there anyway. But I would say that there's little bits of me in all three characters. So Patty being a senior probation officer, so was I. Charmaine having 2 children at 25, I can resonate with how difficult it is to bring up children and still feel that you're finding your way yourself. And Rose, I grew up in the church, so Sunday school, and was acutely aware that there was something happening underneath the surface between the pastors and their wives. Yeah, you could see those who were loving, attentive, warm, and you could see those who were just a bit off with their spouses, and some openly chastised their wives in front of the congregation. or use their the opportunity to preach on their wives. You know, maybe she hadn't ironed his shirt properly or whatever it was, but you could just sense, even though I didn't know the words domestic abuse or domestic violence, I just knew that there was something not quite right or sincere about the relationships that I was witnessing. So in answer to your question, they're all parts of me at different ages. But there are some bits that, you know, I would say wholly it's totally fiction, really, just adding a little bit of what I know was occurring to demonstrate the points.
Okay. Pam, we have a number of authors who write their memoirs and they'll write a book about, or their autobiography, and they will share their experience of domestic abuse and other traumatic experiences. If you were to compare, as a writer, if you were to compare writing a fiction story to writing a memoir, is one easier than the other to do?
I personally think that fiction is a lot harder to write because everybody thinks the story is about them anyway. They think it's real anyway. I remember a friend saying to my sister, you know, I'm so sorry to hear that Pam went through all of that.
After reading
and my sister, what are you talking about? She said, you know, Charmaine, you know, I'm just so sad that Pam went through all of that. And she said, it's fiction. Pam didn't go through all of that. So I think to make up your own stories is a far more difficult task to do than it is to write your own story. That said, writing a memoir is still complex because if it's your story, people have different interpretations of what really went down. So if you're attempting a memoir, you have to make sure that legally you know what you're doing as well, because you don't really want to be sued you know, down the line for getting a particular fact wrong. So I would say that they're both equally as difficult to do, but making up stories is by far a little bit more complex.
Yeah. I mean, that's my view, in the sense, I mean, it's very difficult to, when you write a memoir, when you write an autobiography, the difficulty comes with that you're bearing and you're sharing your real life. And to some extent, I would say that what would make that easier for some people, and I've worked with some authors who have changed their real story and turned it into fiction, or have said this is fiction. I think that writing fiction can give you a bit more creative freedom, because if you're writing something that you're saying this is fact, there's only a certain amount that you can add and you can embellish, or you can change and take away. But when you're writing fiction, you'd have much more freedom in terms of what happens with the characters. And I know that for myself, fiction writing is definitely something I want to do. And that's why I'm grilling you now, Pam. I'm grilling you, you know, and it is something that I admire, because so in the mind of a fiction writer, something that I think about is, for example, I don't know if everybody else thinks this, but with Pam, so Pam's writing a series of books, and you may, you know, you can wonder, I wonder if Pam might use a bit of this in her book, you know, or something that's happened that she knows that's happened with you or that's around her. Someone thinks, oh, I wonder what Pam's going to do about this. Even issues to do with what happens in current affairs. So, like, I'm wondering, you know, is one of the future books going to feature what's happening now, the pandemic, George Floyd, and just different current affairs that happen? Pam, how do you incorporate that?
Well, as you just in case you're not aware, Love in the Brothers is set in London. It's set in 2015. So historical events like the London Olympics in 2012 gets mentioned in Love in the Brothers. There are some historical bits that pieces that get mentioned. I mentioned discrimination because my character is discriminated against when she goes for promotion. And because she's had to go 6 times, you know, to try and get promotion, and has been a manager for over a decade and cannot seem to break through the glass ceiling. So there are issues around prejudice. There is issues around discrimination, how she relates to her colleagues as a Black woman. I mentioned those kind of struggles. I mentioned real places in the book as well. And I mentioned, you know, there's a couple of real people in it as well. So it has like a community feel to or a local feel to the book as well. So, and I carry those similar themes through to Loving the Sisters and Loving the Children as well. When it comes to tackling our recent history to do with COVID-19, I can use the experience of being in isolation to how some women may feel isolated in their marriage. So rather than saying it's COVID-19, I can actually talk about what it's like being indoors and no money to go out, nowhere to go, can't see anybody. And very often for women who are experiencing domestic abuse, isolation is the first tactic that happens. So they move away, or, you know, one of my characters moves south of the river when she's a Hackney girl. So she's isolated. This is Rose. You know, friends can't come to the house. She finds it difficult to befriend people outside of her church circle. So she's got no one to tell that this abuse is happening to. And even when she does take a leap of faith and tell someone, she gets told off for being disrespectful towards her husband. So she's forced to keep those feelings to herself. So I have definitely been able to use being in lockdown to my advantage in terms of trying to imagine what it must be like for women who are isolated with the wrong person.
Yes, that's wonderful. So Pam, writing a series of books like this, that means you have nothing. I imagine that Pam, I don't know about the rest of you, but I imagine that Pam, she just either lounges and creates all day, or she sits at her computer all day and has no other responsibilities. So how, because to do all this creative work, you know, how do you do it? So I take it you have no family responsibilities, Pam.
Oh, of course I do. Between Neville and I, we've got 5 children. And the youngest is still at home. I miss the other 4 terribly. Spoke to one of them on the phone today and tried to be brave and not get upset. So I haven't seen our eldest children since September. Obviously, we're in lockdown in London, so they couldn't come for Christmas. And this time now, I've killed the fatted calf to make sure that everyone could be fed and watered while they were here, and they couldn't come. So it ended up being the 4 of us for Christmas. My dad's with me, and my youngest, and my hubby and I, and we try to make the best of it. But yes, I very much have childcare responsibilities. Cannot stand homeschooling. I don't know who thought that would be a brilliant idea, especially when you're dealing with someone who knows more. My son is a mathematician, so he knows more about maths than I do. So it's hard to try and stick to a routine this time round. We were very disciplined when we went into lockdown the first time, and this time now I just think, you know what, when they go back to school, I'll get a tutor and help him to support him to catch up in the areas that I think that he will need help with. And we're at home all the time, so there's always the washing machine has to go on. I still cook every single day as well. Maybe once a week, twice a week I don't cook. On a Sunday, Neville cooks. But everything else is still the same. It still comes down to me to do and for me to organize. So I don't sit about lounging every day. I think what I've learned between loving the brothers and loving the sisters is that you almost are doing two things at the same time. You're writing your book, but you're also developing your marketing strategy.
That's right.
So when I originally wrote Loving the Brothers, I wasn't even on Instagram. And I think you told me, you know, get yourself out there on social media. And I then did my author page. And then I did an Instagram, opened my Instagram account, and you know, I'm feeding that machine every day, really, to try and build enough followers so that when I'm approaching the traditional publishing houses, I'm able to demonstrate that I have a following. So I estimate I've got about, I've just broken through 2,100 people on Instagram. And overall, I think I've got about 3,000 people who are waiting for the next book. So I'm trying my best to make sure that all my ducks are in a row, so that you know, when people start researching you to find out what your following is like and what kind of activities you've been up to, they can see all the evidence there. So, for example, if someone was to come back to me, a publishing house was to come back to me and say, you know, send us examples of all the radio interviews that you've done, or newspaper clipping. I've got folders all over my phone of all the different activities that I've been doing. And I think this week I have spent time uploading all of my videos, all of my radio interviews, all of my TV appearances that I have done over the last 3 years. I've started to upload those onto social media so that people can just see what I'm about, have a coffee, and then just enjoy what my learning, what my book journey has been all about.
Yeah, brilliant. So I'm going to take you back then right to when the book came out, when the book was coming out. So you definitely harnessed the promotion. So I'm going to just talk about the promotional side. So way before the book came out, you had started your posting about Loving the Brothers, like months before. So can you just give the other authors who are here listening just the things that you did, and then you organized your book launch, so that you did quite a bit of work even before the book came out?
Yes, I mean, as I was saying, I mean, they call it marketing strategy now, and they call it PR now. But for me, it just made sense that people don't know that you've got a book, so you have to make sure that people know about it. And I would say that 90% of the opportunities that I've had have come as a result of being on social media. So if you don't have a Facebook author page, I will strongly recommend that that's one of the first things that you do. I also have my Instagram page. I am on LinkedIn. I'm on YouTube, and but I'm on Twitter as well. I have to say I'm not a huge Twitter fan, but I'm still getting to grips with it. But I would say that they are the 4 major pages that you need to be on. I will also say that if you have contacts in the media, radio, TV, newspapers, that it's worthwhile getting your press release done and sending that out to local and national newspapers and international newspapers as well. I mean, if your book is set in Barbados, let the media in Barbados know that your book is coming. So you can never make the assumption that everybody knows about you and knows about your book. You are responsible for making sure that people know, and that's TV, that's radio, that's newspapers, that's everything. So what I did on my Facebook page then was send out little snippets of the book, create some excitement about the book launch and it coming, inviting prominent people to come along to your book launch. I also travel in packs, so I also then gave the opportunity for other inspiring authors and poets, Louise Pierre is one of them, to have a slot at my book launch to showcase some of her poetry. I had colleagues who are musicians and they came out and did their bits as well, but just creating everything was, every stepping stone was an announcement. So every time I secured a speaker, I let the whole of social media know about it. Every time I secured a band, I let the whole of social media know about it, because as I said, you can never make the assumption that everybody knows. And as much as some of the videos I posted this week are 3 years old, there are still people who haven't seen them.
Yeah. So
it's a good exercise to refresh your social media. So I try and stay under 100 posts every month. And if it goes over 100, I then delete some of the older stuff.
Right.
But you can also dress these videos back up and repost them as well. So I'm very much a fan of themed days. So Motivation Monday, Throwback Tuesday, Author of the Week, what book I'm reading this month. So I'm very much trying to create my own social media content as well. And hashtag away, you know, Instagram have given you 30 hashtags to use with each post, and I try and make it my level best to use all 30 and also copy people in as well. So I received a friend request from Eddie Nestor this week, and I jokingly laughed to my friend and said to her, shall I follow him back? But it's those kind of things in terms of keep on adding people who can then open other doors for you.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Pam. Wow, wonderful. So, and how did you gain these skills? Because were you the social media expert when you started writing? So it also sounds like you're suggesting that for every author, you need to be able to get a handle on your marketing and PR yourself.
Yeah, I mean, we both have a mutual friend who supported me by kicking me off. At that point, I think I was about maybe 200 followers, and a friend decided to take it over for me. But that was because I was having problems with my eyesight in the main, and I couldn't do all of the posting myself. So she took it over and grew my social media to about 1,000 people. And that was, again, we made a big thing about that. We celebrated every win. And other than that, everything else has been absolutely self-taught, and I'm humble enough to learn from anybody. So even my youngest, who is 13 years old, said, you know, Mum, you know, you need to refresh your Instagram, and Mum, you need to delete this. And he showed me how to archive all my posts. I didn't even know how to do that. So I'm still learning. I would never say that, you know, that I'm an expert. I'm still learning, but I'm also willing to share what I have learned with other people. So I don't know if you recall, Marcia, I think it was last year I did a little session on how to use social media to promote your book. And I was surprised that 15 people turned up to have a look at what I was doing, and the feedback was fantastic. There's always been a plan to rerun that again, but rather than looking at Facebook and Instagram, this time looking at Twitter and LinkedIn. Again, a lot of the opportunities have come my way because I'll give you an example. Last year, I was part of the Black Book case with Simon Education, and he had a list of all the speakers. I was one of them, and I reached out to all of the speakers on LinkedIn. Hi, I'm Pam. You know, I understand we're in the same panel on, you know, whenever it was in March, and looking forward to working with you. And these people have come back and said, you know, really intrigued with Love in the Brothers, you know, what's it all about? And that's how I've been managed to be part of conferences and other book festivals. So one door opens another door, which opens another door, which opens another door. So I would say follow people in the same genre as you on social media, and then follow up with editors and publishers and copywriters and all these people who are on a professional website like LinkedIn.
Yes, I agree with you when it comes to LinkedIn, Pam. It is an excellent, I think it's a very underused platform for many authors, but for me, LinkedIn is my favorite place, because it is a professional platform. It is a platform where you can network with other writers, you can network with people who do podcasts, you can network with journalists, with any and everybody. And the advice that I've been given is that I need to be adding 10 people per day. So you need to keep building and building your network, because I think you can go up to, I think it's 30,000 people on, that could be wrong, it could be, but it's a lot more than on Facebook. So Facebook, you can go up to 5,000 people. On LinkedIn, there's hardly any limit. And so I suppose the other side to you as an author, Pam, is that you are also an advocate and an ambassador for domestic abuse awareness, aren't you? And the thread through the book is, well, I see there's a number of threads, but the domestic abuse and also child sexual abuse within the church. I strongly picked up on that in terms of one of the male characters. So in the first instance, I do want to go on to the male characters, but just a bit about you and how through the book you have been able to effect change, or at least be an influencer when it comes to domestic abuse. If you could just touch on that.
I mean, I think you said way at the beginning, back in 2018, the book ends up becoming your calling card.
Yes.
In terms of, you can use it as a platform to open up other doors to other things. So, for example, I took part in a book club called Melina's Book Club, which was on East London Radio. One of the ladies was very, very off with me, couldn't really work out why. And it was much later on when the broadcast was over, she contacted me via social media, and she said the reason why she hated Charmaine was because Charmaine was her, basically. Okay. And the character resonated with her the most. And she then went into her own story of domestic abuse and shared that with me. And the pressure to stay in a relationship, because this man was like the head of the household to all of them, including her mother. So her mother didn't have a partner, her sister, she had younger siblings, and this man was able to walk into the house and own it. And she wanted to get away from him. So I have found that a lot of women who have contacted me in this way, they start off talking about one of the characters in the book, and then they end up telling me their own situations. So quite quickly, I had to put together, signpost people to get help, because remember, my why was about me turning 50 and wanting to self-actualize. So, but when women started to contact me, I had to then put things in place to keep these women safe. So, I mean, I know the National Domestic Abuse Line help number out of my head now, because I've used it so many times in terms of when I'm talking to women, when I'm on the radio, I try and make sure that I get that little plug in as well. But I signpost this young woman to get some help and put her in some really good hands. And then out of the blue, she just disappeared. And I kept on thinking, I wonder how she's doing. And then she popped up again on her own podcast. And, a friend of mine said, Pam, you've got to listen to this, because she's talking about you. And then I realized that You know, she had disclosed her own abuse and also disclosed who had helped her, and talked about the book as well. So that the thing is, writing a book then for me has now come with the responsibility of raising the awareness of domestic abuse.
Yeah.
And also signposting men and women to you know, get help as well. In my experiences as a senior probation officer, the perpetrators, because we mainly dealt with men, very often experienced domestic abuse when they were children. So
Right.
it was learned behavior.
Yeah.
And had no tools of how to be in adult relationships and how to, you know, conflict resolution and all those other things. They had no idea of how, you know, of how to go about those things. So now I'm a domestic abuse advocate, full stop, not necessarily women, men, or, you know, the whole thing, full stop.
Yeah. I think that you're right when you speak about the word responsibility. So any author who, whether you write a fiction book about social issues, or you write your memoir that includes, or your autobiography that includes these issues, we have a responsibility, because we've written these books, and being an author, we're becoming an authority in the subject.
That's right.
And so to your reader, you're presenting the issues to the reader. And I often think that that's something that writers do need to think about, is how are we going to manage the responsibility that comes with the story that we're sharing. So that then just placed you in that position, because I do think that with your book, Pam, it will make, it's fiction and it's fun and it's racy and it's serious, and people will connect with the story very easily, will read the book very easily and not put it down. So they then build a connection and a relationship with the characters, who for many people are also thinking, this is a bit of Pam here, this is Pam. So then it's like, Pamela R. Haynes, that's the go-to woman. She understands. She's written about these issues. She understands. So yeah, it's important.
Yeah, it would be amiss of me just to leave women hanging in the air. Yeah. So you've opened up the wound, yeah. But you've made no attempt to clean it up. You've made no attempt to signpost women to treatment or therapy or advice. I think it would be a missed opportunity not to do that. And, you know, this is why I'm really pressing for Loving the Sisters to be published, because people want to know what happens next. I'm following this woman, yeah. You know, I'm in love with Charmaine. What happens to Charmaine? Yeah. So you know, I do believe it will be amiss of me not to publish the next book, which is why I'm working so hard to try and get the book out there.
Yeah. And to everyone, with Marcia M Publishing House, as you know, we support you to most authors to get your first book out, maybe all your books. It just depends on your particular journey. But the idea, so for me with Pam, now I actually put a pile of books behind me, and I don't know if you can see, I'll click them up. So I've got a pile of books here, and I have to hold them up, turn them around, and I have them now. In this pile of books are different versions of Loving the Brothers. There's at the top on the stand, that's a proof copy. And no, not the one at the top, sorry, the one below, which is really ragged. And I was thinking, why does this book look so rough, you know, and all bent? And then I looked at the back and realized it was probably one of the very early proofs where we had to keep going through and doing work with. And then we've got another proof of another one where we did a large print. So we've got lots of different versions, but I had the books piled up and I was thinking about about the journey that we've been on. I need to hold them up. I don't know. That's it. So in this pile, I've got this is a book that I use at the bottom. This is a journal that I'm using at the moment, which is called Elevated Entrepreneur Planner. It was an expensive book. It cost me about £50, but it's a book that you can do. There's so much in it. I bought it from my coach, actually, my business coach. And then the next book that I have is my book, Geraldine's Pearl, where that was the beginnings for me in terms of the publishing house. And then there's all these copies of Loving the Brothers. So for me, what these books represent for me is the foundation stone, Pam, of Marcia M Publishing House. I see Loving the Brothers as next to my own book as the foundation stones of this whole business, service, ministry, whatever it is I'm doing, you know, we're doing, because it's not even a I thing, it's a we thing, because I have so many people invested. So, but with Loving the Brothers, Pam, why I wanted so many people to meet you is the way that I keep twisting it because I'm showing my kitchen, I'm trying to get the angle right. So is that I wanted people to meet you because of the other thing is there was a stage when Pam's all over social media, and a lot of authors thought, oh God, Marcia's doing all these things for Pam. Marcia's taking her to Ireland. Marcia's taking her to Barbados, but I'm going to say to you, no. Pam took me to Ireland. Pam invited me as her publisher to be part of her launch in Ireland. Pam also invited me to be part of the launch in Barbados, but unfortunately, because of my circumstances, I couldn't go. So in working with Pam Haynes, who's one of the very first few authors that I published, is that it's been a journey where Pam's growing, I'm growing, we're learning. Pam will ask me for something. I haven't yet developed that, but Pam will say, Marcia, I think we need this. And then I look into it and it happens. So it's been just, I just have to really highlight Pam as a real, I know when I was in work, we used to sometimes hire people when I used to manage services in social care. We used to get people in as like critical friend, but also encourager. So when I say critical friend, it's not someone that's coming and dissing you, but it's somebody that's coming and saying, do you know, Marcia, I think you ought to do it like this, or I referred some people and they didn't get through to you. What's happening with the system? So it's somebody who's there in the background, pushing you towards where you need to be, towards excellence, and that is what Pam has done. So whilst you may not see that Pam and I, look, is this the first time we're actually doing a Zoom, that's about you, Pam, that Pam as a just a steely, powerful, thoughtful, careful ambassador in the background. I just needed to acknowledge that, and to also, I think, make other authors aware of the energy and the work that Pam has put into her journey as an author. And she's making this happen. We are here whenever she needs something, she needs a document, needs information, we support Pam. So this is 3 years down the line. And as a publishing house, we're still working with Pam, even though Pam, which we want Pam, we are willing everything and praying and wanting and everything for the Loving series to be snapped up by a big publishing house. I believe, we all believe Pam deserves this for the writer that she is. And this is what, and you see, I've shown you the foundation stone that there it is. My book, my Planner as an Entrepreneur, my book, Geraldine's Pearl, that kicked it off, and then so many. Can you see how many bricks of Loving the Brothers are there that are on the foundation of Marcia M Publishing House and Marcia M Academy? And she was the first author to call me the midwife. On the video that I did play earlier, was actually a video where that's when you actually said it, but we didn't get play properly. So I'll find a way. I'll put the video in the Academy group so everybody can watch that. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, and just to say that, and I know that I often refer new authors, especially fiction writers, and I say you need to follow Pamela Haynes. Because Pam, what we haven't spoken about in this interview is, because we talked about you getting lots of opportunities, but Pam, we were putting together an information sheet about your interviews, and we just could not. We're meant to do a one-sided sheet, but the number of media interviews and opportunities that Pam has done, there was not enough space for Pam's. We had to do both sides of this sheet of information about Pamela Haynes' journey. Pam, I'd love for you to just give the message about your year of saying yes, because after you read Shonda Rhimes' book, I read it, and I understand where you're coming from. So if you could share that. It's amazing. We've been speaking for an hour and I feel like I haven't even covered half the things, but you've covered them. You made sure you got the social media stuff in, which is important. So talk about the year of saying yes. And I'm going to say to and challenge every author on here, the ones whose books are coming out in a few weeks, that make at least your first year of being an author a year of saying yes. So over to you, Pam.
Okay, thanks for that, and thanks for all that you said as well, Marcia. Believe it or not, it's still but it still makes me feel some kind of way. I think it is, that is actually talking about me. She's talking about, and even when people say, with us we have author Pamela R. Haynes, it still makes me feel very nervous. I always pray that just before I go on air or just before I do something, that whatever I do, it has impact. There's no, I don't want my words to return to me void. I want my words to go out and to impact on people. So, I get delighted when I see, my interview with This Brown Girl Reads, and 300 people listen to that podcast that I did. So I still get thrilled when I go on the Let's Talk, the Greg Show, the Simply Greg Show. And I was voted in the second time to come back and do another radio interview.
People wanted you back.
And when I see 400 and 500 people watch that particular show, I am really, really humbled. But it all started in 2018. There's something quite powerful about turning 50. I know they say 50 is the new 30, but there's something powerful about being grown and being able to having the courage to say yes to everything that came my way. So as part of my 50 book year challenge, book read challenge, I chose 50 books to read across 2018, and I'm so pleased that quite early on was one of Shonda Rhimes' book, her year of saying yes, and it more or less empowered me to say, well, let's just say yes. Let's just say yes to everything that comes my way, and even if I can't do it, so even if I'm this swan and everything underneath is panicked, and believe me, I'll still get nervous about doing things. I was nervous about talking to you all today as well, and I try and keep my nerves in check. But what if I just said yes to everything that came my way in 2018? And it was phenomenal. I think one particular week I had an interview each day of the week. because again, people then watch you and then they want to book you for their show. I went on Ben Television before the book was published. I just had my proof, and you know, I'm still feeling the fear, but doing it anyway. And I will strongly urge the aspiring authors who are coming up through the publishing house and those who have recently published, exploit every single opportunity that comes your way. So, for example, I've got a confession to make. I haven't really read from the book because of issues that I've had with my eyesight. And I know that today Marcia wanted me to read from my book. So I've been practicing. So, you know, on the off chance that we get time for me to read from the book, I've started to prepare. So that's saying about, you know, preparing to, you know, planning to fail. I can't remember how it goes now, but always do your preparation. That's it. Yeah. So always do your preparation. Your delivery may come across natural, and your delivery may come across, you know, down to earth and everything else, but always plan and have an idea of what it is that you're going to say, and what key messages do you want to leave with your audience. And I've already done it. I've already told you about my social media because I want you all to follow me. I've already told you about some of the activities that I'm going to be up to as well, because I want you to also tune into those things. And I've also spoken about domestic abuse, and I've already wanted to make sure that I do that. The only thing I would like to mention next then is, you know, writing a book is a legacy for your children and your children's children. I'm always drawn back to that story, 12 Years a Slave. It was written by an enslaved man, but his descendants have now benefited from that particular book being turned into a film. So his children and his children's children have benefited from him writing a book. So you're all in the right place to start preparing your legacy. You know, whatever your why happens to be, writing a book is definitely a legacy for your children and your children's children.
Definitely. Thank you, Pam. Lovely. So do you want to do that reading then?
I'm going to feel the fear and do it anyway. Excuse
Go
my
on,
glasses.
Woo!
Yeah, and I've got can you see the ring?
Yes.
I've got this as a Christmas present. So always be strategic about your Christmas presents.
Yes.
So let's have a look. Okay, and please, if you're Barbadian, please excuse my Bajan accent. I'm trying my best. So this is chapter 22. Cheese on bread, man, cheese on bread. What the ass you telling me this good Sunday afternoon? I hear no coming in from church, trying to steam a little bit of rice to go with the fried chicken from yesterday. I don't understand you, Patty Scotland. You're studying to gain your PhD. You a bright, intelligent, smart woman, yet you behave like you went to school at the Standpipe. Getting married to who, though, Patty? You only met the man on the train the other day, and you're getting married next week? What the ass is the rush, Donna? You pregnant? Veronica asks, but she doesn't wait for me to answer. No, you can't be pregnant. You're too old for that now, she concludes. Charming, Mum. But I reply, but I know she's not listening to me at all. From experience, once Veronica loses her temper, her Barbadian accent becomes more prominent. She uses a lot more old-fashioned Bajan proverbs, and she doesn't listen to anything that you have to say. Well, he can't be marrying you for your Burgundy passport because he don't have his papers already. He travels all over the place. If his papers weren't in good order, he wouldn't have been able to leave the country to attend his father's funeral, she reasoned with herself. So, Patty, what's the big hurry? What did Yolanda have to say when you told her your news? Wait, hold on, don't bother answer that. She's probably just happy to be your bridesmaid. She's away with the fairies, that one. So what did Miss Antoinette have to say? She got a lot of sense, that one. I bet she didn't approve of this foolishness. Mum demands an answer. Well, she's had her reservations, Mum, but at the end of the day, it's my decision to make, and she supports me wholeheartedly, I try to say bravely. There's silence as both of us gather our thoughts. I see Veronica turning off the stove under the rice. Then she positions the tablet on the dining room table so we can see each other. She claps her hands together once, and then she exclaims, I know what he wants from you, Patty. It just occurred to me. He wants your bloody house. Remember Miss Maud, the St. Lucian lady who used to work down at Queen's Hospital? She asked. Not really, Mum, I say. You can't remember? She was a midwife for a number of years before retiring when she was 60. She used to bake the best coconut bread in East London. Oh, yes, I remember her, Mum. Why, what happened to her? Well, I can tell you. Anyway, she retired, as I said, at 60 years old and went down to St. Lucia Jazz Festival a couple of years ago, playing young and walking up herself in the People's Catamaran trip and winding up herself at every pop that lit. She met this local St. Lucian boy with a slim body and curly hair. And she came back to London telling everybody that would listen that she'd fallen in love with a man about 30 years her junior. The following year, she went back down to St. Lucia and got married to him on the beach. And she wore white. I swear all that man brought into the relationship was his suitcase, his PlayStation, and good sex. He refused to work, saying there was nothing to match his skill set as a beach man. And he stayed in the marriage for exactly 2 years. Then he told her he wanted a family and she was too old to get that one done. Rumor has it he already had his woman up here in his. But because he was in the marriage for 2 years, he knew that he was entitled to half of her house and she had to buy him out. Now she's doing agency work at a time when she should be relaxing and enjoying herself. Miss Maud was the talk of the African Caribbean Club for months after that. I'm sorry, I have to tell you, Patty, but Marcus Morgan is after your house, your little legacy for my granddaughter. Veronica sat back at the dining room table chair like she just uncovered the crime of the century with a satisfied look on her face.
Wonderful. You did well. You did really well, Pam, with the accent and everything. And again, and you and Veronica, as you know, Pam, is my favorite character in the book. I absolutely love Veronica Scotland. Absolutely. Right, I'm going to hand over to if anyone has any questions or comments for you, Pam, or feedback. It's over to you guys. So let's I might take Pam off the spotlight, or if you have any comment, I can put you on spotlight with Pam. So yeah, over to you. Adina, Pauline, but I'm calling Adina. Okay, Adina, there you are.
Hey, Pam.
Hi.
You continually amaze me. You're absolutely amazing and inspirational. And I must admit, I did write it. The accent was down to a T, and I absolutely love this book. I tell a lot of people about it. But loving the sisters. Know that all these people are waiting. Do you get them messaging you every month or every couple of months saying, how are you getting on? You know, do you get that from them, or do they just wait for you to put it out there?
No, they do. They everybody wants to know, when's it coming, what's happened with it. So I try and keep people up to date on social media. So when I completed the manuscript, I let everybody, I let everybody know that it was completed. When it came back from an editor, I let everybody know. So I'm trying to keep people as informed and up to date as possible with what's happening with the book at the minute. I get friends who ring me in and before they say, "How are you, Pam? What's happening with loving the sisters?" So yeah, there's a lot of interest around the book, and as I said, I'm trying my best to get the book out there.
Yeah, and also,
and thank you for being. Yeah.
And also, what I love about you, you are such a kind-hearted soul, and if anyone reaches out to you, you will say, "Come with me, I will help you, I will help you." And also with the ambassador's role of the domestic violence as well, that is such an important subject, and you are there standing there and saying, "If you want to know anything, come to me." You don't say, "I've got every single answer," because you never say that. You are such a humble person. You'll say, "Right, if I don't know, I'll go away and I'll come back and I'll tell you." But the main thing is that you have come to me, and obviously Marcia, she has set this ball rolling with all of us, really. And as Marcia said, she is the foundation and you are the building blocks, and we're on top of them.
That's right. That's right.
Amen and hallelujah, my sister.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks, Pauline.
Thank you. I mean, I have never forgotten that if it wasn't for Marcia, this book wouldn't have been here.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't, because Marcia let me write my story in my own way. Had I got a traditional publishing deal from the beginning, from the offset, they wanted me to compromise too much.
Yeah.
So, and I'm finding this with Loving Sisters. There were 3 non-negotiable. A, I wasn't going to change the title. I've had the title Loving the Brothers for about 20 years.
Yeah.
B, I wasn't going to change the cover. I love the fact that it's an oil painting and it's bespoke. And it's eye-catching, and the other thing, more importantly, I wasn't going to change the ethnicity of one of my protagonists. It's a book with 3 Black women in it, and it's going to stay a book with 3 Black women into it. And the beauty about going to Marcia is that that didn't even come up as an issue. Marcia didn't even say. I think we had a name change. I don't know if you remember, Marcia. Originally, Rose was Cynthia.
Yeah.
And when we tested the book with a couple of Marcia's reviewers, they came back and they gave me some feedback on the name, because the name was getting confused with one of the other characters. Yeah. And overnight we changed the name to Rose. So in terms of developing the plot, Marcia was quick to come back. I think Dawn was one of my reviewers, and Dawn said, "Can't go to Jamaica and not have a 9 nights." And I was like, "Gosh, yes, of course I need to write about that." Yeah. So you have to be open to learning and open to taking feedback and open to taking criticism. So if you're someone that can't do that, don't write a book, because when you get your first 1-star review on Amazon, it's going to blow you out of the water. So at least along the way, I felt as though I was open to criticism. I think there was only one time that Marcia didn't come back to me because she was cross. And I think I added 8,000 words to the book. And even though we were done, weren't we, Marcia? We were done.
And you wrote a little bit more. And then she sent me 8,000 words to add in.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, that was just a little bit more.
Yeah. I remember. I do remember the debate we had as well. We had debates about it was homecoming or homegoing, and
that's right.
About homegoing service or homecoming service for the funeral, and I think that our role was definitely the developmental work with you, just working with you and questioning, is this, is it as authentic, the authenticity of it? But Pam, it's your work. We did our part, but it's your work, and we admire you for your work. I want to introduce Chantel.
Yeah.
because Chantel, she's here, and she's another fiction writer. Because I actually, Pam, I want you guys, all of my fiction writers, to meet you, because it is a lot different to writing a memoir. So I don't know, Chantel, your book is about to be released. I think Chantel's is our very next baby. And so just anything that you'd like to say.
Yeah, so I do follow you on social media, and your updates and everything are really handy, like the little snippets that you put out there. So definitely, go and follow. But you touched just on the fact that when you're writing a book, you need to be quite resilient, and in terms of reviews and that type of thing. How have you dealt with, if you've had any at all, any negative response to your book, whether it be directly or indirectly? Is it just kind of like everyone's talked their opinion, it's absolutely fine, or did you kind of, how did you deal with that, if it's happened?
Yeah, I mean, it has happened. I remember how I felt when I got my first 3-star review, and the person said it was a good, they enjoyed the book, it just wasn't their genre. They prefer science fiction or fantasy or something.
Okay.
And that's the reason why. I mean, a 3 isn't bad, but at the time when it's happening, I'm quite mortified by it. I think I've had a few more since then, but more recently on Amazon, a few weeks back, I had a 1-star rating. And even I know that the book is not a 1-star, 1-star book, but a rating is different to a review. So the person's gone along and they've bought a book and they've just ticked whatever they had and just kept it moving.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for me, that brought down the whole rating of the book. So it brought it down from a 5-star to, I think, a 4.4-star.
Or something.
And I've got a feeling that I fell out with somebody on social media on one of these groups.
Yeah.
And I was probably posing with the book in that particular group, the group for photo, my profile photo. And I've got a feeling that after the fight, they just went on to Amazon and gave me a 1, because there was no feedback. If you're going to give me a 1, I would have at least expected you to right, that was wrong, that was poor, this and that and that. Yeah, but there was no feedback with it. It was just a rating. And then as if by magic, it just disappeared as well. It disappeared and it went back up to a 5-star. So I've learned a couple of things there. First of all, it's not every fight you have to join in on social media, because my book is now my brand. And if other publishers are looking at your book to see how popular it is, you don't need that 1-star to be there to bring down your score. So I've learned to go into social media, use it, but I don't comment very much on other people's stuff, and I don't join debates about whether people should have the vaccine or not, or travel or not. I don't get involved in that. So it's about me realizing that my book is now my brand, and I have to do everything that I can do to protect it. But I did get loads and loads of feedback about Loving the Brothers. The most important one for me is that it was only 53,000 words, I think.
Same as mine.
People wanted more, and they felt that it was value for money. But I left people on a cliffhanger, you see, which is another thing that I'm learning about. People don't like cliffhangers. I don't like them. So why did I leave people for 3 years later waiting?
You left us for 3 years.
So Loving the Sisters is now 75,000 words long, so it's a longer read. People won't, unless they dedicate the whole weekend to it, they won't be able to start it and finish it in a few hours. So I'm learning all the time, but I'm not a person that likes waffle. Yeah, I don't want my words to return to me void, so I like to keep things short and sweet. And I don't like padding out things just as though you can say that you've hit a particular milestone, that it's 70 words long or it's 80 words long, because even the story ends where the story ends. And for Loving the Sisters, I was in a unique position with lockdown and all that. Loving the Sisters just flew. And I just had to keep up with my characters and type everything down that they were telling me. Whereas Loving the Children is a bit more labor intensive. There's I'm talking about safeguarding, I'm talking about child protection proceedings and all of those. And because I want to get it procedurally right, it means I have to do a lot more research. To go with Loving the Children. So I would say grow a thick skin as fast as you can.
Yes.
Put people around you who you trust their opinions completely. So I've got a small group of women who have already read Loving the Sisters, and they will come back and say, Pam, I'm not too sure, because in book 1 you said X. You said her dress was pink, for example, but certainly in Loving the Sisters, the dress is blue. So there are people who are checking with, to make sure that your themes of your book is consistent. And my editor, the person that edited the book for me lives in New Zealand, and she said to me, Pam, it was so good that I forgot I was supposed to be doing a job. I just got caught up in the story. I just want to build on those kind of things, really. But again, surround yourself. I call them Team Haynes, hashtag Team Haynes, who voluntarily agreed to read the book.
Another of our authors to join you. I know she's having something to read. Sorry, Naomi, Elizabeth, you're on camera. You're on the spotlight. But I just wanted to. I just want to get you introduced to Pam as well. That Naomi's book comes out also within the next month. It will be out. We're almost there. And just to see if you had any kind of questions for Pam, for yourself, or tell a little bit about your book, maybe.
Hi, Pam. Congratulations on your book, and I can't wait to read it and get the second book. I'm actually considering, and it's really bad I'm doing this, I'm sort of considering waiting until you bring out Loving the Sisters, and then I'll buy the 2 of them so that I don't get left on the cliff with everybody else.
Okay.
But I'll probably get it before then anyway, because Marcia, the books that are coming through your publishing house, they're really, really good. You know what I mean? Even the children's books, my children have been getting into them, and I can just say that they are really, the stories behind it, the feeling and the emotion that goes into them, it's beautiful. So yeah,
Brilliant.
My book is a 3-part book. It's called In Relation to Men. So there's 2 parts of In Relation to Men, and it talks about my journey from my youth and the impressions that men left on me, in order for me to gain a picture of what men should be and how men should be, how we should relate, and how I want my children to be in the full of it. So in the second book, it then talks about my aspirations for my children and how I've used all of these experiences with the men that I met in my life in order to try and give my sons the best that I can and make them be, basically embrace the crowns that they have and be proud of themselves, be the best men that they can be. It does touch on a lot of the same topics that your book touches on, Pamela. So it was kind of it's kind of weird listening to it, coming from a fiction side and knowing that is a reality side as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading it.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Chantel, introduce your book, please.
Yeah, so my book's Imani's Diary. It is set in the 90s, and it's a coming of age fiction, really, and it's tells the life of 2 years of her experiences growing up, friends, fallouts, boyfriends, mishaps, so kind of the life of a 15-year-old growing up in the 90s, going through whatever she goes through. And I suppose, like you mentioned earlier, your book being a a platform for other avenues that links in with my actual business, where I support and mentor young girls between the age of 13 and 21. So Imani is essentially the prime example of the mentors and the mentees that we have on our sister to sister program. So she goes through a lot and she learns a lot about herself and friends and relationships and that type of thing. But it's threaded with nostalgia from the 90s. So if you grew up in the 90s, there's lots of references to music that was listened to back then, food that was ate. Like it's full of 90s nostalgia, but with the underlying message of kind of coming of age and some of the things that Imani experiences over her teen years, really. So yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And then we have Yvonne, the fiction writer. Yvonne. Good to see you, Yvonne. You're muted. You're muted. Hi, yes. Yvonne.
Hello, how are you? Hi, Marcia. Hi, Pamela. Hi, everybody. Pauline and everyone else. How are you?
How you doing?
I'm okay, thank you. I'm okay.
Okay. So, as you already know, Yvonne. But yeah, Yvonne, how's it going? How's it going?
It's getting there, slowly but surely. But yeah, I'm doing okay.
Okay.
I actually have been trying really to push my book through social media.
Yeah.
And I really admire Pamela.
Yeah.
I must say, Pamela, I commend you for your enthusiasm, for your talent, for your motivation, you know, to progress and to help other people as well. I'd like to ask Pamela, how can I use social media more effectively to push my book? Where do you get the energy from? How do you do it? Can you advise?
How do you do it?
Okay, I'm going to make another confession, so don't tell anybody. A lot of these things are done from my bed, under the duvet, nice and warm and toasty. And in fact, you're the one that kept me on my toes, because when I saw the quality of your Christmas promotion back in November, I'm like, what? This Yvonne, she's there, she's there. And where is my Christmas promotion? Well, how come I haven't done it yet? So I have to say, I was really impressed by you. And I'm seeing your numbers, I'm following you, and I'm seeing your numbers growing steadily. I'm seeing your Instagram stories. My advice to you and to all the aspiring authors, carry on with your Instagram stories, putting your book up there. Carry on with your Instagram reels that shows part of your book journey.
How do you do reels? I don't know how to do them.
Shall I do a tutorial? You'll have to have me back, Marcia, and I'll show you how to do
yes,
a
please.
tutorial.
I'm going to have you back to do a tutorial on Instagram, please.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah. But use all the tools that Instagram give you, because what I'm learning is that every tool that you use on Instagram changes the algorithm and your books get seen by other people. So every hashtag you use, every Instagram story that you use, every highlight that you use shows your book to more people. So carry on doing what you're doing. I didn't see any. I started with 200 followers, which were just friends and all of that, and as I said, expanded now to 2,100 followers. And set yourself goals. So I set a goal at I think it was New Year's Eve, to get 2,000. I got 2,000 and focused on the next 100 followers. I've got that now. Join on Facebook, join all of these book author groups. So there's Black Chapters, which is an author group. Follow them all, and every now and then they do like for like follows. So you follow them and then they follow you straight back. Anything like that that can help increase your the number of people you have following. Keep it entertaining and keep it fun. You know, every now and then I say to people, I'm wearing blue nail polish. What's your favorite? Or, you know, I'm wearing Fenty makeup. What makes, so don't necessarily make it about your book. It can be about other things. And a call to action. So you're calling people to say, comment below. You know, I think I did something like that today. Tell me some happy news, because I don't know about you, but it's all doom and gloom at the minute. I've just said, please share some good news and put them in the comments below. So you're calling people to action to do something on your page. Again, every comment, every like creates more visibility.
Okay, thank you. Because at the moment I'm not using Facebook at present, because I'm trying to focus on Instagram, because I've got lots very busy at the moment. You know, grandchildren, caring for grandchildren and stuff. So my focus is on Instagram at present. I will eventually go back to.
But there is a way.
Connect them.
There's a way of connecting your accounts. So I only focus on Instagram and it pulls it through to my Facebook account.
Okay.
So I'm only doing the work once. Yeah.
Okay.
So I can't tell you right now because I've done it ages ago, but there is a way that you connect both your Facebook and your Instagram account together. And when you post on Instagram, it goes straight through to your Facebook account. Actually, so I don't spend the day doing different managing 4 different accounts. I use Insta and it sends it to Facebook.
Okay, thank you. Well, at the moment, I am Marcia, trying to write the second, the sequel to my book.
Oh, wow.
I'm trying. And it's basically about RD. Yeah. Who is the character, the protagonist. Yeah. And he himself, he will have a child, and he's trying to parent differently from what his father did. So the focus is on that, so I'm getting there.
Okay. Well, yeah. Yvonne, I said today I'm overdue. I have not had a virtual coffee with Yvonne for ages, so I'm going to write to you tomorrow, send you a message so we can have a good catch up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, lovely to see.
Okay, it's lovely. It's a lovely session, very inspirational. Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Marcia. Thank you.
I'm going to invite Norma, Miss Norma, my mum, who was one of the first readers of Loving the Brothers. And Norma, a secret, Norma was also writing a fiction book. And this week, she told me she's not going to do it anymore. So
she should.
Norma, any comments, questions for Pam? You need to unmute.
Hi, Pam. Hi. Well, as you know, I did read your book in the very early stage, and I was blown away by this book. And having worked in social work myself, I could identify with a lot of the things that you've written in this book. So I enjoyed reading. I'm going to have to read it again because
it's been 3 years.
Sorry?
It's been 3 years since or over 3 years since you read it.
No, I've read it. I've read it
again
after that, and I'm going to read it again. Okay, before Loving the Sisters comes out. So I'm there with it. But you're such an inspirational person, Pam, and I do admire you, and I see all the hard work you do. I see you on social media, and I'm saying, "Oh, Pam's here again," But it's brilliant. It's nice to see you promoting your book in the way you do. Yes, I started writing a fiction, and I've abandoned it, so I'm going to write a cookery book instead.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. And thank you very much for inviting me, Marcia.
You're
this evening.
welcome.
And thank you, Pam. And looking forward to Loving the Sisters.
Oh, thanks, Norma. Miss Norma.
Thank you. If it's okay, just to say publicly, just to thank Miss Norma, that when my mum passed away in September, she called me all the way from Portugal.
Oh.
And I really do appreciate you doing that, because a lot of people sent messages, text messages, WhatsApp messages, and so on. But the fact that you picked up the phone to speak to me really, really meant a lot. So I really want to thank you for doing that.
Sharing the love. Okay.
Sharing the love. Oh, thanks, Pam. Put a tear to my eye now.
Oh.
Right. Move the spotlight. Nemo. Any questions? Because I know this whole social media thing, but Pam actually had somebody doing her social media for some time. So I know that's something you're considering, Nemo. So any questions? Can't hear you.
There are two questions because I think
Yeah.
I missed part of it.
Can't hear you, Nemo.
You can't.
Only when you shout.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
You need to have an ear check.
I need an ear check.
I can't hear you either.
What do you mean you can't hear me? My volume is at the maximum.
It's very low though. It is low, Nemo.
Yeah.
It's me who talks softly, I think.
I know. So just
Okay.
go on
Hello?
there.
Hello,
Go
hello,
on.
hello. Can you hear me now?
Hello.
Can you hear me now?
Pam, can
Yes.
you hear me? Okay.
Okay, so it's just repeating or reiterating something you mentioned about what are these big like the big book companies, say I heard about your deal breakers in the sense of what you were not going to allow about the book. Now, a lot of the books that are being written, and please understand where I'm coming from, are written a lot by people from the islands, Caribbean islands. And as a Kenyan, I wonder where I fit in that story,
Okay.
of Black people. And also, I can't compromise the content of my book. So, and I also know that they want to change content sometime, because I had a publisher once tell me, well, your book is too Black, so I think you need to customize it to the current whatever. And I told them to F off, sorry for doing that. And I said, I can't do that. I wasn't writing for anybody. So that's one part of the question is, will you still decide to go traditional if you get the opportunity, or will you still remain with like Marcia Publishing House, create the sequels and still go on with whatever you want to do? And the last question is, okay, here's the truth. I hate social media. There's a time I enjoyed it. Now I'm bored of it, absolutely bored of it. And I also I'm good at writing, not conversing, and not creating content. So for me, I'm a talker. If when I need to talk, if and when I need to talk. How do you overcome that? And again, I have a disability which doesn't allow me to function as well as most people. How would you see I could overcome that, even though I'm not a non-fiction writer? That's it.
So the first part was about my non-negotiables.
Yeah.
And as I said earlier, when I first went looking for a traditional publisher, the feedback was on the cover. The cover apparently spoke to a demographic. The title also spoke to a demographic. That was the feedback. And it let me know that they hadn't actually cracked the cover and read it, because the title, Loving the Brothers, it's because there are 3 brothers, the Morgan brothers.
Mm.
And the other thing was about the protagonist. They wanted me to make one of them English, white English.
Mm.
And they were my 3 non-negotiables. And remember, that was 2017. Flash forward, and it's sad to say that somebody had to be murdered, but George Floyd's death has opened up the publishing houses that were originally not even giving us a look in. And it's interesting that now we're into 2021, the very things that they were telling me was too black about my book are now on Vogue. Yeah.
Yes.
So you will see now, especially with people who are writing from the continent of Africa, their books are colourful. They contain Black people on the front of them. They're unapologetic in their writing and what they're writing about. They are now become en vogue. So publishers who traditionally would not even give me a look in are now saying, actually send your stuff in, let's have a look. And I want to have a look at your synopsis. I want to see you know, what this book is all about. So the very characteristics that they were trying to weed out, 3 years later, every publishing house now has some kind of BAME effort that they're trying to encourage aspiring Black, African and Black Caribbean authors to come forward. Elizabeth just said, yeah, Black is trending now. And I suppose that was my main reason behind going down a traditional route. I have to say that Marcia has had my back 100% and supported me in trying to do that.
Yes.
And she thinks that it's worthy of a traditional publishing deal. But right now, Black is trending. And if Black is trending, I'm going to try and push my books through down a traditional publishing route. And, you know, and that's where I am with it. I will tell this group that I've had 2 rejection letters since I started. We're both from HarperCollins. So one of their platforms is HQ Digital, and the other one was from HarperCollins. And it hasn't deterred me. I know that eventually I will find the right fit with the kind of publishers that I want to be with. So that's the first part of your question. We are now trending, so go for that. And the second part of your question was, can you remind me the second part of your question? Your reluctance to use social media because you're not really into it, and you're carrying you know, you're having a disability as well, which doesn't lend itself to that kind of medium. Then there's other ways, you know. If you don't want to do social media, or you want to do very little on social media, have a very good website where all of your work, your interviews, your other writing could be there. Then focus on getting somebody to develop your website for you, and there's loads of people out there who will do that. So rather than focusing on Facebook and the rest of it, focus on building up your support on via website. Also have an email list so that you can perhaps write a blog.
I have no problem in terms of doing the Instagram and stuff like that. The issue is that it's consistency. I have fibro like Marcia, and I think I'm at level 15. Right? And so combined with also sadly lupus, I cannot sometimes simply function. And therefore, just the thought of sitting and thinking, okay, we have to create content for a month, and at that time my body is failing, it just can't work for me. But writing is easy for me. I can wake up and decide, okay, I'm gonna write a blog.
Yeah.
And then upload it.
I mean, that's where I was heading. That's where I was heading with my answer. If you're not doing that, then write a blog. And it doesn't have to be a weekly blog. It can be, once every 2 weeks. It could be once a month, but the content is so good, it draws people and they will look out for your blog once a week. The beauty about social media is that, I remember, Mark, I don't know if you remember when I did my very first Facebook Live, and how nervous I was doing it. Why not do a Facebook Live? This month is Black History Month in America. If you've got family in the States, why not do, a Facebook Live with with family, friends, and get the visibility, or raise the visibility around your book in that way. So, you don't have to be posting every single day. Don't just post for posting's sake. Post content that links to something.
Yeah, I think also because a lot of my book is about my own journey, but also reflection on the problems as a Black person that I faced, or I face, or anybody faces when they present. And there's a different discussion on language, tradition, culture, and stuff like that. So maybe what I'll do when I'm in a good mood is just record them and plug them up. I have to put makeup.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Nemo.
And I have to put on wake up, comb my hair.
Oh.
Okay. Thank you, Pamela. I can't wait for the next cohort because I didn't sleep reading the first one. So I look forward to buying the next one.
Wonderful. Many thanks.
Thanks, Nemo. I'd just like to introduce you to Gilroy Brown, another one of our authors who is penning his autobiography. Gilroy, maybe you introduce who you are. Gilroy, for me, is somebody that definitely in the community in Birmingham, he's someone of great stature. He's somebody who's we admire as an educationalist. So if you want to introduce yourself, Gilroy, to Pam.
I don't think it's anything more I can say after that, Marcia.
Oh, I'm sure you can, because I've missed it all out.
Well, can I say, Pam, great hearing you tonight, and I do apologize for coming in slightly late. I was in another meeting, but I captured a lot and I took lots of notes, copious notes.
Good.
I'm very much a learner still because compared to, I think it's Elizabeth and to Chantel, you're at the end of the process. I'm just starting. Marcia has been extremely helpful to me in helping me to map things out and get my thoughts in order and to fully understand why it is I want to write. And mine is an autobiography. I have a story to tell. I've been told, so that's what I've done. But listening to you was so good because I understood more about the process. The process is says a complex detail. You can't enter into this thing lightly, and you've got to be sure about what you're doing. You've got to be prepared to put in the hard work. You've got to stick at it regardless. And there's many, different ways you go to, but you stick at it. And it's like I was an artist as well, many fine artists, but a sculptor sees a block of marble, envisages what that marble can become and chips away at it and never stops until it's perfect. And I think what you've illustrated tonight is that you've got to keep chipping away until it is. And you can always improve on it, put it that way, but you never gave up on it. I was intrigued and very interested by his stories as well, by the way in which he developed the characters, and how the characters developed and made them fully round and they've got depth, which I think was extremely good. And interesting, you talked about how writing fiction in one sense is harder than writing obviously from life itself. And I wouldn't have thought that before, but you've now convinced me that yes, I can see the particular challenges when you are writing fiction to when you're writing from life itself. So there was so much there. What also came out as well was your story. I'm not ready, but I know enough to know that it's quite frank, deep, challenging. And you talked about, or the conversation came around about that your story opens the wounds and cleans them up, but you don't want to just leave the person there with the wound open. You know, you do feel that there should be some sort of resolution to it, a signpost.
Absolutely.
And what came to my mind was the idea of the story being redemptive, you know, that it should lead to the person, the reader, finding out more about themselves, but leading them to do something or to improve in their own life on their journey, if that makes sense. And I think as Black writers, I think there's a greater responsibility to want to serve the people and to bring us out of the darkness towards light. You know, where's a white writer, and maybe generalizing here, can do any, we can't. We're struck by this deep-seated moral duty to help our race, if I can put it in that respect here. But also from a man's point of view, I'm conscious that I'm the only man here, but more men need to come into these situations, because this session has been informative and inspirational. I just thought that many men need to read more stories from women, and many Black men from Black women, because it's insightful. And for all certain for men, we need stories that are revelatory in that respect, where it wakes us up and makes us see. I mean, I've done a lot of reading, but it's mainly like educational journals, so I'm that sad kind of person. I need to read more for pleasure. But I remember reading Toni Morrison and those women, and really, it really gave me some insight into the mind of a woman, what a woman wants from a man, or Black women, see men, etc., that type of thing. So it added to my knowledge, and it's been a great learning experience for me. And talking to other men who are brave enough to speak, they've taught about the value of actually listening to women and learning about women by women, and learning about how to be a proper man by listening to a woman. Then, which takes me then to Elizabeth's comment about men, what women expect from men, more also growing up your sons, and you are quoted here as embracing their crowns. That's what Elizabeth said. And you said, and I think men need to do that, because Black women are waiting for Black men just to take their place, to sit beside them on the throne, basically.
Yeah.
And sadly, we're so lost. And I'm not saying this to engender pity from you sisters, because if it wasn't for Black women, I don't know where we'd be. But
well, I for one wouldn't be here.
Exactly. You know what I mean? I also talk with many men who are who want to do something for men. You know what I mean? To deal with their own issues and to feed themselves, and to realize that women are there to support and understand. And the sad thing is, I think, with us as Black people and Black couples, the mistrust that there still is between Black men and Black women. You know, I grew up with a mother and a father. My mother and father married for 70 years. And I learned a lot about how a man loves a woman loves a man, or a man respects his wife, or a wife respects her. So I'm blessed with that, thank the Lord. And so I've never been threatened by a strong woman. In fact, I'm inspired by a strong woman. And it's just so sad that so many Black men feel threatened by it. And I'm talking to some Black women, they feel they have to dumb themselves down to make the man feel good, which is so sad. And that's a debate in itself that needs to happen. But what I'm glad about is that we are tackling it, because we have to. We have to heal ourselves, sort out ourselves, be truthful, be honest, and so forth. Elizabeth, I hope that your sons are able to talk freely to you as a mom, as a woman, and will be able then to talk to women openly and share feelings. I mean, that's still got some way to go there. And just finally, sorry.
I was going to say that, you know, whilst I'm here and whilst I'm talking about the book, at every opportunity, I also try and talk about how supportive my husband has been of me as well. So I mentioned earlier that the lighting that I'm using today was a Christmas present from him. So I didn't get a ring, but I got a ring. You know, the banner behind me, he put up and made sure was comfortable. During lockdown, he built this office space for me as well. He was the first to bring me my laptop when I was being lazy and say, come on, Pam, you've got a deadline to meet, get on with it. He has driven me up and down the country to attend radio interviews. He's held down the fort while I've travelled to Barbados. He's come with us to Ireland as well, didn't he?
Yes, we drank Guinness
and
together.
yeah, that's right. He's 100% in my corner and so excited for me. And that's why when I do things, I try and bring him with me as well. So I do remember we were invited to meet the High Commissioner of Barbados at his private residence in Roehampton. And it was a garden party, beautiful day. And I remember looking across, you know, he was talking to somebody and I looked across at him and he looked at me as if to say, what are we doing here? You know, East End girl, Canning Town girl is in, you know, around these people enjoying, you know, these beautiful surroundings. So for me, I wanted to also get that across in the book, that whilst it's a horrific subject matter, it's also an example of what Black love looks like, what Black courtship looks like, Black romance, Black relationships. And these are things that anybody can relate to. You know,
Yeah.
I've got people all over who are reading Loving the Brothers from New Zealand, Australia, America, and I've got a lot of men reading it because they've seen their partners with, you know, they're not cooking, they're not washing, they're reading away, and they think, well, what is it about this book? And they've read the book and they've left the review afterwards. They read it as a result of seeing their partners read it. So I hope that there is balance in the book. That you know, I have had people saying to me that Marcus, one of my male characters, is too good to be true. When is he going to turn? And you know, it's almost as though we're expecting all of our relationships with our Black men to be poor, and that's not the case.
What I'd love to see is a collection of books that celebrate positive Black love. I'd love to see a book like that, and I'd like it to be about that thick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We need to see more of that. And this wouldn't be fiction, it's based on fact. There's a lot of examples of positive Black love out there that needs to be celebrated. Just finally, just to say that. Sorry?
Whilst Loving the Brothers is fiction, there are examples in there of, you know, Black couples dating, Black couples love, Black couples supportive of each other and Black couples loving each other. There are examples in there. There's a beautiful scene in Loving the Sisters, and it celebrates basically our parents and our grandparents who were in marriages for 50 years, for 60 years, for 70 years, and still together. So, and there's a beautiful scene in there where I celebrate that as well. You know, this whole thing about being, you know, a single parent family is a new phenomenon when you think and you look back at our parents and our grandparents who stuck it out through thick and thin.
That's right.
So I hope that Loving the Sisters celebrates that as well.
Just to round off as well, from the discussion that came from the discussing your work was, I put it, we have to continue to validate ourselves as well, because you talked about the battle of being accepted in mainstream and being told it's too Black, and some other authors said the same thing. And, you know, we have to validate ourselves in season and out of season. And if it, as far as I'm concerned, being the Vogue, that's not my issue, that's their issue. I'm Black, always have been, I always want to be. So we have to validate ourselves in and out of season. I like the way you are very pragmatic, and he said, you know, sometimes you have to use tokenism, use it.
Yeah.
Use tokenism as a way, I would say, as a strategy for survival in this system, because we succeed in spite of this system. Every Black success is been in spite of the system. I've always told young people that in my profession, we succeed in spite of, so don't look for favors. We have to be very creative when we navigate this system, because it wasn't meant for us and it still isn't. And even with the George Floyd thing now and people waking up, it's only for a while, because when they find their feet again, it'll be the same old, same old. So while we have the opportunity to change it, and I think this is a unique opportunity in the history of the world to change the narrative, to change the dynamic, let's do it. And last of all, I think as authors, we need to be agents of change. and to inspire, not only inspire young people, but give them a sense of agency, not only believing it, but believe you can do it and you can change it. So straight away, I see from the books here, powerful, powerful tools to change the future for our young people. So, and ourselves. That's all I can say. I didn't intend to say so much, but, you know, I've been inspired tonight, so thank you.
That's wonderful, wonderful, Gilroy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Chantel has another question for you, Pam.
Sorry, yeah, won't keep you long. So it was kind of two questions really. So the first one was, do you sell your book on your own platform? So aside from like maybe, you know, you Waterstones and Amazon, do you have your own website where you sell it directly? That was the first thing. Then I've got another one as well.
Yeah, I mean, I only have about 20 copies here, but yeah, I can do that by via PayPal for you. So get in contact with me. I'm set up here. COVID caused me to adapt really, so I can do all the posting and everything from home, and then just pop it in the post box for you. So yeah, I can do you a signed copy. That's no problem at all.
And also,
that's easy.
I think for Chantel is we've been having a conversation about how she should sell her books moving forward. Whether, you know, that some of the discussions we've had is that Amazon is not necessarily going to be the primary places that actually either selling from your website. I know, Pam, you sell signed copies through eBay. So it's like, what strategies do you use to sell your signed copies?
Yeah, I mean, and also who you're sending them to. So I don't know if you recall, Marcia, but I had ordered 2 huge boxes from you of books from you, and I didn't want to, because I had the book festival coming up, the one in Birmingham at the Legacy, and the one with Crime and Education. So I ordered loads and loads of books, and I just wasn't shifting them because of lockdown. So what I ended up doing was targeting book clubs.
Brilliant.
And that was really how I was able to shift the book. So I'm a member of a few book clubs, but I also managed to convince people to read my book for their book club. And I was putting, you know, 10 and 12 books into the post box, promising them signed copies at a discounted rate because it was for a book club. And that's how I was able to shift them. So I think at the moment I've got about maybe 17 copies left out of 2 massive boxes.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so you just have to more or less look around and see, how can I shift this, you know, how can I shift this stock and get the book out there? And that was one of my strategies for targeting book clubs in London. And I post my book out for, I think it's £1.99. You'll get it eventually. You might not get it the next day, but you get it eventually. And that's the way to do it.
Perfect. And then really quickly, I know you touched on it previously, I just wanted to kind of like touch on it again. So you mentioned that I think it was a friend of your sister's, I think you said, who said something like, you know, they couldn't believe that you went through all these things, and, you know, having to be reminded that this wasn't your story, it's fiction. And that's something that I'm quite conscious that people might associate with mine. And yes, you can say it's not me, it's fiction, you know, and what have you. Like, how else have you been able to you know, really segregate? Because yes, while things, you know, your personal life has influenced some of the characters and things like that, but essentially those characters aren't you. I like the fact that you said there's a bit of you in each of them. How have you kind of like ensured that people don't think that this is your story, your experience?
I think with the benefit of hindsight, and I did mention this to Marcia, I should have put a disclaimer in the book at the front or at the back to say, you know, you get it, but the characters in the story are fiction, not based on anyone living or dead. Or I should have put something in that, because that would be the first act as a gatekeeper that this is fiction.
Okay.
Martha is very clear. She's put fiction all over the book, so make sure that yours has those kind of disclaimers in it as well. And I suppose I have just learned of what I will discuss about my personal life and what I won't discuss.
Okay.
Because I don't want it ever to be about me and not about my book.
Yeah.
So I have been asked the question about whether I have been a victim or a survivor of domestic abuse. I've been asked about particular things in my book, and is that me, and etc.
Yeah.
And I have been very clear in radio interviews, in TV interviews, in Zoom calls, what I am prepared to discuss and what I'm not prepared to discuss. Because, you know, I still have a child who's at school, and I still have, you know, children that I need to protect as well. So I try and stick everything into my professional career.
Okay.
Because I was an abuse facilitator for 5 years, and my experiences that I put in the experiences I put in the book are drawn from my career, and that's where I try and focus the discussion on. I remember working in a hostel for sex offenders, and they always say, do not let the offenders draw you into conversations about children. But, you know, they would come up. I remember one man randomly said to me, you know, oh, do you have children, miss? And I said, I have experience of working in children's homes and working in mother and baby units. That's what I'm prepared to talk about.
Right.
And I was able to have a professional discussion with him without having to disclose anything about the children, my own children.
Yeah.
So try and keep everything in the professional realm. Try and keep everything about your writing and all of that, and not about you personally, but have a discussion with you about what you're prepared to disclose and what you're not prepared to disclose.
That's really useful. I like that angle. I definitely like that angle. I think it works well, especially if you've had like the pre, you know, you've been briefed on what's going to take place. Have you been in a situation where you've been on the spot and have like outright said something that you weren't, you know, because that's your strategy.
I did it. Pointed at me.
So how did you? I think. You know, because it's all good and well being able to prep it from in advance. I like that strategy. But if ever I was in an interview and someone said, you know, X, Y, and Z.
Let me say something. If you notice, while I was interviewing Pam, so I'm leading the interview, but then Pam took control of the interview at one point because she knew the things that she wanted to speak about.
Right. Yeah. True.
And I remember a while ago, Pam you did a course on interviews, and the you know, what you were taught and what you learned was fantastic, because it was about, you know, what you want to convey in that interview, and pre-prepare that, your 5 points that you want to get over in that interview. So it's almost being like a politician, you know, just stick to that line. And I think Pam is very skilled at that in terms, because I even felt, while I was interviewing her, I felt the shift and I understood so I was going to introduce social media a bit later. Pam knew that on her agenda was to talk about social media. And so in the interview, it shifted over to Pam taking that control and making sure that
her points will go.
So I think that was something Pam taught me, you know, in terms of that prep. Am I right, Pam? But then I did interview her and put her on the spot. So carry on.
I mean, really, I don't know if you remember, I had an interview with Pamela Joseph on Ben Television. And just before the interview started, I said to her, I cannot discuss my work as a probation officer.
Right.
Yeah. Remember, I was still employed. I still, you know, the head of communications, they all knew, they were all watching. And we know what some people can be like. They're waiting for you to slip up so that they can put you in a disciplinary and get rid of you.
That's right.
So not the supporters that watch you, know, the haters watch you. Sorry.
Right. You can take control by saying what you will and won't discuss right from the beginning. So if you're in a high profile job and I don't know, you're doing something around policy or whatever, you know that you can't go into interview and answer any questions about that.
Yeah.
So make it quite clear with whoever you're interviewing, this is what you're here to discuss. But yeah, Marcia interviewed me about two years ago from when we were doing that TV stuff with Stillborn. Yeah, and I have to say, because it was Marcia, I answered honestly. And then I created some reflection time for myself, and I thought, well, actually, I don't really want that to go out. And Marcia was open when she was editing that show. She just edited it out. And I try not to tell people about my health challenges because I don't want people, I'm not a bleeding heart. I don't want people to feel sorry for me. I don't want people to be worried about me. But more recently, I've been a bit more, because I'm coming through on the other side, I've been a bit more open about saying, well, yeah, I have 2 disabilities, and I'm fighting with one of them, at the moment. But I'm getting by. It hasn't stopped me from being able to fulfill my dream of becoming an author. And if I can do it, then you can do it. So I've used it as an empowerment story, rather than a woe is me story. I couldn't see for ages, and I couldn't read my manuscript and all of that. I've been able to turn them into people who are partially sighted can write books too. So you control the narrative. Have in your mind the 3 and 4 things that you want to convey in your interview. I tend to start my interviews always, because I get so nervous, so I have to practice even saying my name. Hi, yes, my name is Pamela Boyd, author of Love in the Brothers. I always start with that line because of nerves, so you then end up working out what your own strategy might be. When it takes practice. This academy, remember, there was no academy when Love in the Brothers was issued. I had coaching from Marcia, and I had coaching from Dawn as well. But other than that, I didn't have an academy. This is where you can make mistakes. Here is where you can practice presenting.
We are doing. I mean, Tanya's been doing some speaking challenges, but we are. What I have been doing with authors as their books come out is some practice interviews as well. So I know that I did the first one with Sabrina, and just to get her to, I've been working with Sabrina on how she structures her answers to it when she's been interviewed about her fiction book, and how to actually structure that so that she's able to get over the message of what the book's about, and also a little bit about herself. And so, yeah, we can do that as well, Chantel, where we can look at how you're going to manage that process. So you're introducing Imani, you're introducing the story, you're making it very clear it's not your story.
I think for me, one of the biggest things, because it's written in diary entry form, I feel like the most obvious question that I'll be asked is, did you also keep a diary? Just because by virtue of how it's written. Now, if I was put on the spot and asked, I don't know how I'd then link something like that to professionalism or career, because I don't want it to be associated with, oh, this is a take on A, B, and C. Do you get what I mean? I think that's like...
Call it something else then. Call it journaling. Yes, I journaled. Yeah, and it was, that's the beauty about journaling, is it's private and it's personal to me. And then move on the discussion. You don't have to start looking at your diary entries and no, you don't need to start doing that. A reflection journal, all the stuff that Yannick does is all on vogue at the minute. Everybody's got a journal. I've got Michelle Obama's journal here as well, and I've got Yannick's journal here. So you don't have to be suddenly start disclosing.
Love it.
Your time, guys.
Thank you.
This is so wonderful. We could have sat here all evening. Like I say, when I speak with Pam, it's like all evening, can't stop. That's why we don't speak so often. My cousin, who's my very best, my bosom friend, we used to live far away from each other, and we'd see each other a lot, all the time, and be on the phone all the time. Now she moved closer to me. we just don't visit each other and we don't phone. And the reason is, if I go and visit, I'll never leave. And if we never get off the phone and we don't have the time. And I think that's what happens when I talk with Pam. It's like, you don't want to stop. So therefore it ends up that we don't talk that much. Pam, it's been wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Thanks for having me.
It's been absolutely wonderful. And I see that, you know, there's much more that we can do, that you've got so much that other authors can learn from. I know that you do your own mentoring and support of authors. And yeah, you have a wealth of knowledge and experience to share. And it's just been great being on the journey. I just feel that we've just grown up together, you know, in these 5 years. As you as a writer, I mean, I've taken more of a back seat as a writer, but I'm actually feeling inspired to, I'm still working on my revisited Geraldine's Pearl, but I'm feeling inspired to do some fiction. I have some drafts. Shelley's typed loads of things for me, but now it's the time. Things are settling down. We have got lots of systems and partnerships in place now, which I am very thankful for, that it's creating time and space now that I'll be able to